Hi YouTube, so today I wanted to make a video, as you can see from the title. I wanted to make a video about a book that I am currently reading, books that I would like to read and books I have already read. So I will just get straight into the video and hopefully this doesn't get too long. So the first book that I want to talk about is obviously by Jodi, and if you watched my previous video on books that I was reading and had already read and stuff, then you will know that I really like her writing. So this is a new book. It came out just last year. It is called The Painter's Daughter, and it follows along with a girl called Sophie DuPont, who is the daughter of an artist. She helps her father in his studio, and she is also an artist, and she does landscape art. And this guy called Wesley Overtree, he sees her work and he's just like, wow, this is like amazing, and he kind of falls in love with her, and he comes over, and when he comes to see her he stays in their studio and he works with her father, and he leaves her in some trouble, runs away, and his older brother, Captain Stephen Overtree, has to come in and try and fix the mess that his brother has created. And I am I'm just a few pages in, so I thought I would include it in here anyway as a book that I am busy reading, because I am. But it is a really good read so far, and looking at reviews online, I am in for a treat. So then I wanted to talk about books that I have a desire to finish this year. I don't want to set myself like a specific goal of I want to finish it by a certain time of the year, but I would just like to finish these books. So obviously I'm going to start with the ones that are also by Jodi, because as I've just said, I am in love with her writing. So this one I have actually already read before, but I would like to read it again. It is called Lady of Milkweed Manor, and it follows along with a vicar's daughter, and her name is Charlotte Lamb, and basically she gets herself into a little bit of trouble and she needs to leave society, and so she goes to hide at a house called Milkweed Manor, where she keeps her secret hidden from everyone. And it was a really good book. I read this a few years ago. I was probably about 14 or 15, and I really enjoyed it at that time. It was probably a little bit heavy for my age, but it is really quite good. This is a book I would recommend to people. It does, Jodi is a Christian author, so if that is not your thing, you could probably still try and read books by her. I'm really not into like the whole Christian preachy author type thing, but this is the kind of book that I really did enjoy, because she's not very preachy with her writing. She does mention that the characters pray, or that they talk to God and stuff, but there's nothing that sort of jumps down your throat where you're like, oh, I have to be a Christian to read this book, because you don't. Then another book that I would like to read is one that I did actually start reading, and I was reading it during a time when I was really overwhelmed with studies, so I stopped reading it and I pulled the bookmark away and I just put it up on my shelf and didn't look at it again, and I'm really kind of gutted that I didn't stick with it, but this is a book again by Jodi, and I believe this is the last book that I have by her. I have got some other ones, but they are currently not here. This is called The Girl in the Gatehouse, and it follows along with a girl called Mariah Aubrey, and there is some scandal which we are not aware of in the beginning of the book, I've read about a quarter of the book, so I hadn't hit the point where they mentioned what this scandal was. But basically, she needs to leave society, and she goes and she hides in this gatehouse, which is pictured on the front of the cover. And she goes and hides in this gatehouse on a large estate, and nobody knows that she's there. And then she gets discovered, and then you're just sort of wondering, like, is the scandal going to come to light? Is this guy going to realise what she's done? And all the stuff. And I've read reviews on this, and it looks like a really good book, so I know that I'm in for a good treat. Another book that I would like to read is one that I got for a gift from my aunt, and I got a series of 3 books from her. This is not a series, it wasn't like an actual series, but I got 3 books from her, and this was one of the books. It is a thin book, there's only 20 chapters in it. It is called A Love Forbidden by Kathleen Morgan. Again, she is a Christian author. I don't actually read a lot of her books just because I don't know, I just haven't read any of her books. I'm not quite sure if she is very preachy with her Christianity. I don't know. Again, I would just say read it. If it looks like an interesting book, then you could just try it anyway. I haven't read it yet, so I can't give you any real feedback on it. But basically it follows along with a girl called Shiloh Wainwright, and she's 20, and she is a teacher, and she goes to live in Colorado, and she basically helps to teach the Indian children. And then she meets this guy who she finds out was a childhood friend, and his name is Jesse Blackwater. And basically there's a lot of tension, and it looks like a really good book, and I'm really excited to read it. Then the other book that I would like to finish reading, I have started reading this. I'm about 25 pages in, and it is a book by a New Zealand girl called Kimberley Crossman, and she is an actress. And this book is called Love You, Be Your Best, and Live Your Dreams. And the blurb on the back basically just says, finding your direction in life can sometimes be a struggle. In Love You, successful former Shortland Street actor and TV host Kimberley Crossman shares her life lessons and tools for building confidence and making positive changes so you can attain your goals. Kimberley reflects on important influences in her life and shares how she overcame challenges to achieve her dream of being an actor and entertainer. Full of practical advice and including exercises to help with goal setting, health, relationships, and a positive self-image, this book is the perfect inspiration as you set out in pursuit of your dreams. And she just put a little quote at the bottom and says, I wish when I was younger that I had had a book like this to refer to. And I'm really excited to keep reading this. I did start reading this while I was overseas with my family. We went on an overseas holiday, and I just kind of got really into like a holiday and just kind of focused on spending time with family, that I didn't actually read much of it, but I would like to finish reading it because it was quite good what I've read of it. Next is books that I have actually read, and I did mention that the ones that I would like to read, I have read some of them, but these are ones that I have read and actually finished. So the first book is by Jodi Picoult, or the first 2 books. The first book is this. It is called The Storyteller, and it follows along with the story of when the Germans killed all the Jews. It follows the story of Sage Singer, who's a young woman, and she runs a bakery. And she loses her mum, so she joins a grief group. As kind of like they go to meetings and they talk about their problem, about their grief and how they've coped, and just kind of be there for each other. And in this group she meets a guy called Joseph Weber, who finds out that one of Sage's ancestors was in the concentration camps, and she survived. And anyway, he says, well, she's got a really close connection with the Jews that were killed, and he says that he was one of the German officers who worked in the camps, and he says that he needs someone to punish him and help him die for the crime that he committed all those years ago, because many other officers were charged with murder after that happened, and he managed to get away from authorities, and now he wants to die. And she's like, well, basically, you know, she can't kill him because he needs to pay for his sins, he needs to go to prison, and she can't just let him die and get away with it. Yeah, it is it's a very dark story, obviously, because of the time that it was written. But with Jodi Picoult, in true Jodi Picoult style, she does write books that are that focus on harder topics, and she writes it really, really well. It was a really good book, but definitely have some tissues nearby, and if you struggle with that time period, maybe avoid this book. Another book is again by Jodi Picoult. This is called The Pact. This book does contain suicide and depression, so if that is a trigger for you, definitely avoid this book. But it follows along with these two teenagers, and their parents were friends, and then they were friends, and basically the girl dies, and the boy goes on trial for her murder, and then they're like, oh, well, hang on, what if it was the suicide pact? And that is why it's called The Pact. So it was a really good book. I read this really, really quickly. I really did enjoy it, even though the subject was quite hard for me to deal with. It was still quite a good book, but again, if you struggle with suicide and depression, maybe avoid this book. Then the last book that I read was part of a series called the Thorn in My Heart series, and there are the books in the back. Just hold that up and you can have a look at that. So this is the third book in the series. There was a fourth book, but after I finished reading this book, I thought the story was finished and I didn't need to read the fourth book. Basically it is based on a Christian story in the Bible. If you overlook that, it is a really, really good book. So it follows along the story of Jacob and Esau, and here this is set in the Scottish Highlands, and this is Jamie, who is Jacob, and then there is Evan, who is Esau. Then there's the two sisters, Liana and Rose, who are Leah and Rachel. And basically what happens is it's just basically like the story in the Bible. Leah and Rachel, Liana and Rose. So it was said that Rose was the more beautiful sister, and the father is quite attached to her, and Jamie has his sights set on Rose, and so the father tricks him into marrying Liana, who stands in as a proxy for her sister Rose, because Rose goes away. And basically it just follows along with that story, and it's a really good read. I really like the Scottish style of writing, and she's got some Scottish words in there with the meanings in the back of the book, which is really, really helpful. And it also just teaches you about a different time period, and her name is Liz Curtis Higgs. This is called Whence Came a Prince. Then and the other two books are Thorn in My Heart and Fear is the Rose. And then the last one is, I think, Grace in Thine Eyes, and it basically follows along with a daughter, and we won't mention who because that would ruin the story. But basically I didn't read the fourth book. I read like the first sentence and I just thought, nah, I can't read this. The story just finished on the third book for me. It is a really good series though, definitely not preachy at all. So if you would like to have a nice book that is not too preachy, I don't think it actually mentions anything about Christianity in it. but it is a really, really good series, and her writing is just really good. And I would really like to get the first 2 books in this series so that I can read it again. And that is all the books that I'm going to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I look forward to talking to you guys in my next video. Bye!